Good afternoon, and welcome to this session on building the OpenStreetMap community in Tanzania. My name is Emmor, and my OSM username is Pololo. I'm sorry that I can't be with you there in Dar. I wish I could have traveled there, but I hope to be with you at some point in the future at a future State of the Map conference. I first worked in Tanzania in 2015 on a Red Cross project in Ushirombo. You can see me here with the village kids. They weren't too used to having a Mzungu wander around their community. But the great thing about that project was that we took advantage of, the Red Cross was very clear to involve local community leaders. We have on the right, we have a Red Cross volunteer collecting the OpenStreetMap data, and then a community leader from the local mosque that walked along with him to assure the homeowners that this was a good project. And this is, I think, key to building a community within a village or within the country as well. And being able to work together and learn from each other and encourage each other is really what community is all about. And that's my objective today, is to provide some encouragement for you to develop the OpenStreetMap in Tanzania and develop it and make it become more mature. As you can see, that there are lots of OpenStreetMap efforts around the world, and Tanzania is up near the top of the countries where editing takes place. You can see it looks like Norway and Finland on this day. They had very large imports of several million features. But if you look at the numbers for the United States and Germany, there are hundreds and hundreds of users making thousands of edits. And this kind of shows where I believe that all countries will be, that it's not a matter of mapping once and then done. It's continuing to refine the map and continue to develop it and make it more complete. There were 73 editors in Tanzania on this day and over 100,000 edits just on this one day. Tanzania is definitely one of the, has had some great progress in the last few years. And there are approximately 20 million buildings in the country, and already over the last several years, we've done well over half of those. There's still a lot of work to do, but there's also a lot of work to improve the existing data elements, the points of interest, the polygons, to adjust the tagging and create a more complete map. Now, the challenge with OpenStreetMap is that English is the primary language in which it was developed. Other translations have been made, but primarily English is a challenging language. And I admit that I've been speaking it all my life. I speak American English, not British English, and there's differences there. And an example is we have two compound words composed of the same subwords. And so we have overhang and hangover. These are have two very different meanings, even though the words used to build the compound words are the same. An overhang is where a rock is hangs over a cliff, and a hangover, where a rock is over the top of a cliff or a wall, and a hangover is something that happens when you drink too much bailimi. This is not just an issue for Kiswahili speakers, but in Spanish, the word for lake is Laguna. And here we have a lake in South America that was tagged as a lagoon, which sounds like Laguna, but a lagoon is something by the ocean. This lake is at 4,000 meters. And so this had to be edited to change the water type to be lake and not lagoon. It's not, the challenges of using OpenStreetMap are not limited to Tanzania. And a great example in Tanzania is the tag amenity equals community center. And a community center is not the center of the community. It's not the village center. It's not a business center. It's not a health center or a cultural center. A community center is a place where the members of the community can come and learn or have events. So this is a community center run by an NGO near where I live. And you can see there's a playground and a daycare center for kids. There's classrooms where parents can have parenting classes or exercise classes. There's a swimming pool, there's exercise equipment. And it's not at the middle of the town or the village, but it's in a place that is convenient for people. And but it has a specific meaning. And so don't get confused by the term center, because that term can be modified by many other words and it completely changes the meaning. So for example, here is a village where there were 3 points of interest that were all tagged as community center. You can see there's an M-Pesa shop, a grinding mill, and a hairdresser. And so all these tags needed to be changed from amenity equals community center to mobile money agent as a kiosk, a grinding mill, and then a shop equals hairdresser. And this is understandable that these edits were made, because sometimes some applications don't allow the creation of all of these features. And when you're out standing in front of a building in the sun, it's easy to pick something that comes up and get the name and upload it to OpenStreetMap. And these were not done maliciously, and it's not a criticism of any of the people who made these, but it's an edit. These are edits that need to be updated to reflect a more accurate representation, because if you're searching for an M-Pesa kiosk, you're not going to look for a community center. You want to search for a kiosk. Here's another example of some nodes that have some issues. On the left, you can see there's a milling station that's tagged as a market. You have motorcycle parking in some trees, a police station in the middle of the trees, and a business center that's tagged as a community center. All of these don't have any buildings near them. And that's an issue. The accuracy needs to be improved, because suppose someone does find the Ijumbi police station and adds a tag, a point of interest for it, and then we have two point of interest for the police station, one at the location of the building and another off in the trees. On the right, you can see where they not only added community center for this M-Pesa point, but they also call it a pet shop. Shop equals pet. And it's important to use, in Tanzania, I really want to encourage people to add name : SW, which means the name in Swahili. The best way for us to encourage the community, the wider community support for OpenStreetMap in Tanzania is to add as much Swahili as possible. So let's look at here are the locations of these community centers in Tanzania. So there are over 1,000 features that were tagged as a community center. So some of these definitely could be community centers where it's a place where people would come and meet and would be a true community center. But I believe many of these are not they're tagged incorrectly and need to be updated. And I can make an estimation of, when I'm mapping remotely, I can make an estimation of what would the proper tag be, but it's much better that someone who is familiar with in the local community would know that, oh, this is a kiosk or a butcher or any other kind of shop. Another issues that I see is multiple tags for the same feature. On the left, you see a polygon or an area for the primary school, and then two other people have added in just a point of interest node for the primary school. There's no reason to have multiple tags here. Having the one tag for the polygon enables an application to do a search, and you could find that school. On the right, you can see where there's 5 schools tagged out in the middle of this field. There's no buildings near there. And having 4 tags for the same school is not very helpful, especially if it's not in the location where the school exists. I'm certain that there is a Kagoma secondary school, but we need to have the exact location for that school, not just something somewhere in OpenStreetMap. And then the same thing is true for a village or a town or a city, that there really should be only one point of interest node. And generally that should be at the central part of the community, where the business centers are, maybe where the bus station, where you have an intersection of 2 roads. And I understand that the outlying areas would consider them part of that village. Kanokwe has a larger area, but when somebody is using an application to travel to this village, they need to go to the center of the village, not to some place that maybe is out in a field. So there's many villages that have a multiple point of interest, and these are ones that need to be updated. And again, the best people to do that are people that speak Kiswahili and are in Tanzania. Database normalization is something that we don't necessarily talk about, but the idea of normalization is to reduce redundancy and improve data integrity. And an example of that is that we're now dealing with a database management in English, and dealing with then the English usage in Tanzania, and the words and values have different meaning. So Buyaga village may be what people call this location, but as it's already tagged as a place equals village, and having the name Buyaga village, Buyaga is the name of the village. And if we have it tagged as village, Buyaga village then is redundant. And if you want to add the name in Kiswahili, then this would be the way it would be, you would accomplish it. And you can see it's the location of the point is at a major road intersection, and then the extra tag off on the far left then has been removed. Another issue, here's another example of a point of interest that's, I have no reason to believe that it's wrong, but it's out in the middle of this field. And if someone were to go to this church and look on their phone for OpenStreetMap, they would say, oh, there's no tag here, and they would add another point of interest at this location. So here's an example of how you would improve this. So here we have a tag that's named ELCT Itongo Magata. And so the edit to this is then to move the point to in front of the building, and then the abbreviations are not a part of the data normalization in OpenStreetMap, and so it's better to spell it out: Evangelical Lutheran Church of Tanzania. So this would now mean that this location is clearly identified and people won't add an additional node at this place. Now, these issues I've been going over for the most part are common mistakes and misunderstandings. And I know that when I was first learning OpenStreetMap, I was working in an area and I saw that somebody had tagged a road as road equals yes. And so I thought that was the way, that was the standard convention for OpenStreetMap. Later, I learned no, that it should be road equals residential or road equals path, and I had to go back and fix those. This is another issue here where you can see that there's these large building areas that are mixed in with actual buildings. And this was what I would call vandalism, where somebody is creating features that don't exist. Maybe this person was having a competition to see how many buildings could be created, or I don't know what the issue, but this user hasn't been editing for quite a while. And here, once again, here you see this one one polygon is tagged as a pet shop. Well, this is what a pet shop is. A pet shop is a location, is a store that sells goods for pets. These are toys that for dogs and toys for cats. You can buy a fish that you would keep in a tank, a very small, colorful fish, or a bird that you would keep in a cage. And then there will be specialty foods for these pets. Now, pets are not something really that are terribly common in Tanzania. And so I believe that there are very few pet shops in Tanzania. I'm not saying there aren't any, but I believe there's probably very few that would actually be a shop that would cater to pet owners to have toys or clothing for their dog or their cat. And if we again do a search in Overpass Turbo, you can see that there are over 300 pet shops in Tanzania. And it could be just a simple misunderstanding, or you have somebody saying, oh, they tagged an M-Pesa kiosk as a pet shop. That's what I'm going to, next time I create a tag for M-Pesa, I'm going to call it a pet shop. There's also, in this case, a misunderstanding of the name. So here we have a filling station, and it was tagged as an amenity equals charging station. Well, station has a different meaning than a filling station is different than a charging station. A charging station is where electric vehicles are charged. And then also you can see that the all capital letters is another non-standard, is not a standard OpenStreetMap convention. It's kind of like in an email, all capital letters is shouting, it's rude. And so this is the edit to fix this filling station so that it does show as for fuel and then the proper naming convention. Another word usage that is a challenge in Tanzania is that a sub-village is a standard location in Tanzania and has a real meaning, but in OpenStreetMap, sub-village is not a place type. So the way the convention that should be used in OpenStreetMap for a sub-village is to call it a place equals hamlet, or a place equals a neighborhood in the case of a town or a city. And then you could have the village name and then the neighborhood or the hamlet also tagged, but not both as a village, because village has a specific meaning in OpenStreetMap that is slightly different than the meaning in Kiswahili. Also, it's important to, when new highway alignments have been created, to, if possible, collect a GPS trace for the area and then update the road location, the highway location in OpenStreetMap. The good news is that the OpenStreetMap in Tanzania has come a long way in the last several years and is becoming much more mature. We have ways to go to finish the 20 million buildings in the country, and there are still many roads and paths that need to be traced, but working together and taking advantage of local Kiswahili speakers, that OpenStreetMap in Tanzania will become mature, and that's a credit to all of you.